Whoa, hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to the Good Hombres Report. I am your host, the Alpha Liberal, and today is our tech news day of the week. Samsung had a big day on February 11th, 2020, which was yesterday. They had announced their continuation of the Samsung Galaxy S line, but instead of the S11, it is actually now called S20. And the reason for that change in name, or not name rather, in the number, is because allegedly this is supposed to be such a super huge leap in technology for the phone line that Samsung wanted to make sure that people knew that by doubling the number to 20 instead of just adding it up to 11. And so before I get to the Galaxy S line, there was actually another phone in the event that was announced around the Super Bowl time, and that phone is called the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. If you guys remember a few months ago, there was a phone that was unveiled and which is now released, which is the Motorola Razr phone. The Motorola Razr brand was a very ultra popular phone. If you're 30 years or older, you probably knew of this phone or had this phone, and it was I would say the most popular flip phone back in the day in the 2000s. And Motorola revived it. And instead of making it into a flip phone, obviously, because it would be outdated, it's actually a folding phone, very similar to the Samsung Galaxy Fold. But instead of the Fold, which folds horizontally, this folds vertically, like a clamshell phone from the good old days. And so, unfortunately for that phone, the reviews, based on what I've seen so far, have not been kind to it. It's a very low-ended spec phone, and I believe it starts at $1,300 or $1,400, which is super expensive for a phone that has really last gen specs. And so the Z Flip phone, fortunately, does have current gen specs. From my understanding, it's not the highest. It's not going to be the highest phone with the highest specs, but it is a current gen phone. I think it's a Snapdragon 855 here in the US. The 865, which is in the S20 phones, that is the higher end CPU that is going to be in the flagship. And so I'm not particularly sure why Samsung chose to market this at a different time or release it at a different time, because it is releasing this week on Valentine's Day. I guess they think it's a different market, a completely different segment, the kind of person that will buy a flip phone, a fold flip phone. But it is a very interesting concept. I think it's cool that the industry is heading towards these new designs, kind of making a callback to the great phones of yesteryear. But at the same time, there's again, it hasn't been receiving good reviews. And I think the Galaxy Z Flip, which is a higher end phone, but has a similar concept, is going to have inevitably the same flaws because the form factor is exactly the same. And so one of the biggest tech YouTubers, Marquez Brownlee, MKHB, he pointed out a huge design flaw of these new folding flip phones. And that if you want to actually look at the main screen, because when you fold it over, there's just a little dinky LCD screen, and there's a little bit bigger screen on the Razr phone, but it's not really it's not functional. And so if you want to use the full functionality of the phone to open it, it's an extra step. When you pull it out of your pocket, it's an extra step to open it. And what made the old flip phone so cool is that, I remember back in the day when you had a flip phone, it would be so cool to just go like that and flip it open. It's like, oh, need to make a call? Boom. You flip it open. You hear that clicking sound every single time you did that. It was really cool. The problem is that because these folding screens are so brand new, I mean, the first one was released last year, had that huge issue, the Samsung Galaxy Fold, where it was delayed for 3 to 4 months because they just had issues with the screen, with dust getting underneath because of the way the folding mechanism is. And so with this new phone that Samsung is releasing, again, I feel like I appreciate the design choices that they're making, the kind of the innovative way they're trying to make something new and introduce it into the market. But at the same time, I feel like it's creating a problem that was never really there. I can't recall ever thinking in my head, man, I wish I had flip phones again. As cool as it was back in the day, I like the old style, the bar phones. I like it, and it's part of the reason why iPhone was so popular, because that design choice of making an all-screen phone that you didn't have to flip, you didn't need that extra step. And so I actually think that it's a regression. It's one of those things that I don't know who's the market, because even Samsung's own flip phone, it doesn't have the highest end specs. It doesn't have an 865. It doesn't have the S20 Ultra camera, and it's $1,400, which is flagship territory. A Galaxy Fold, which is a much bigger screen, I think if we do transition into a new design, I think that it is going to be that folding design that folds horizontally. So that way we essentially have a tablet in our pocket that can size down to just a regular size phone. And so I think the Galaxy Fold, or Huawei, I know, had their own folding phone, that Huawei, which is banned in the United States because they're a Chinese company right now. But they probably had a much cooler proposition than Samsung, I think, because they had that almost bezel-less screen. It was very similar, except it folded instead of folding inward, it would fold outward. And so both sides would basically become a dual screen when you had it in the phone bar shape. And so I think that's the wave of the future. In terms of design, I don't think the clamshell, I think the clamshell phone is just going to be a fad. I don't see people picking it up, especially not for $1,400. The Galaxy Fold, I think, makes a much better proposition to purchasing a foldable phone. And this is pretty much the second generation of this. The Galaxy Z Flip, if you watch Samsung's marketing, it seems that they've improved significantly and learned a lot from the previous iteration, the issues that they had with the Galaxy Fold. And I'm waiting for these phones to just become the Fold itself, to become more stable, become more durable. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm sure they're going to do it at some point, that these phones become IP68 water resistant. And to me, someone like me who's an outdoorsy person, and I go hiking, I go camping, I go trekking. And so in these situations, you need something that's going to survive rain, that's going to survive dust. And I think a lot of people have come to expect that in a flagship phone, that if you're buying something for upwards of $1,000, that you need something that's going to last, that is not going to be destroyed by just taking it to the beach. And so these, I think, are going to be the biggest issues that folding mechanism type of phones have to overcome. And so hopefully in a few years, that's exactly what will happen. I hope Samsung ends up keeps innovating the Fold itself, so it becomes the mainstream. And I really do think that's where the market is headed. I don't see the clamshell design becoming the norm. I think that's just, like I said, it's just going to be a fad that will most likely go away.